Great. Hello, Shannon. Thank you for joining us. All right. Well, it is right at 12:30, so I figure we should just go ahead and start. As people join in, we can include them into the conversation, but I don't want to take up more time from anyone than necessary. So let's just go ahead and start. Thank you everyone for joining the Operation New Hope Social Exchange to discuss rehabilitation behind the wall. This is our third in a series of conversations regarding criminal justice reform. And I guess this is our second, excuse me. Last month, we had a conversation regarding sentencing reform. We were joined by Coral Messina from the State Attorney's Office, and also Greg Newburn from FAM, the Families Against Mandatory Minimum Sentencing, and that was a really great discussion. Today we are joined by Chaplain James Norman from Baker Correctional Institution, from the Florida Department of Corrections, and we also are joined by Professor Daniel Conrath from Florida State Community College, and both are have experience in rehabilitation efforts aimed at affecting change for prisoners while incarcerated. So they are going to speak to that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now for everyone, and we'll get going. All right, share, and if everyone will help me out to make sure the screen is on share. Is that correct? Yep. Do you guys have my slideshow view?
Yep.
Great. Yep. From the beginning, here we go. All right. So thank you all again for joining Social Exchange to discuss rehabilitation from behind the walls. Today we will have our panel discussion, as I briefly explained, from Chaplain Norman and Professor Conrath. We'll then open up to a group discussion and then wrap up. Just as a brief introduction, we wanted to kind of contextualize the idea of rehabilitation behind the walls. And, we all want safe communities, and we want people to be held accountable for their actions. And we understand that the basic idea of rehabilitation through imprisonment is that a person who's been incarcerated hopefully will never want to go back to prison after they have been set free. So hopefully the efforts taken while incarcerated will help rehabilitate the person so that that is the case. However, unfortunately, on average, 68% of formerly incarcerated individuals recidivate within the first 3 years. I know our Florida Department of Corrections recidivism numbers are a bit different for their 3-year cohort. They report a 25% recidivism rate, roughly, for those that go from Florida Department of Corrections and then back to Florida Department of Corrections. So in order to reduce recidivism, we understand or believe that we need to improve rehabilitation behind the walls as one of the key components to that, in conjunction with work like we do here at Operation New Hope surrounding reentry. So we have got 2 experts then on prison rehabilitation. We've got, as I said, Chaplain James Norman. He has worked with our team of Ready for Release team and is a really good friend of Operation New Hope. He is at Baker Correctional Institution, and he, from my understanding, is it correct, Chaplain, that you also are pastor to small congregation in Lake Butler as well?
Yes.
Good. I'm sure you'll share more with us about your expertise. We also have Professor Conrath. He's a political science professor at Florida State College at Jacksonville. He also was the grants manager for Florida Gateway College and the Second Chance Pell Grants, working on a pilot program with the Columbia County Correctional Annex. And I'm sure he'll tell us more about that as well. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Chaplain Norman and let him give us a little preview of, or just a better understanding of what the Florida Department of Correction is currently doing in terms of rehabilitation and the work that he does as well. So I'm going to go ahead and make you the spotlight, Chaplain.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I am Jamie Norman, but majority of folks that I dialogue with every day call me Chaplain. Matter of fact, I don't think that they even know my first name other than Chap. That's what most folks call me. But I am Jamie Norman, and I do pastor a small church in Lake Butler. One of the pastors, I should say, and then also have a side hustle. I do a little lawn care business, but the main thing that I do is a chaplaincy work. I've been a chaplain with the Department of Corrections, Florida Department of Corrections for probably going on 6 years now. I actually was a chaplain at Columbia Correctional Institution when they introduced the Second Chance Pell program there at Pell Grant program at Columbia. But now I'm at Baker, which is has a more transitional reentry type mission than we did at Columbia due to the longer sentencing of the inmates, or longer sentences the inmates had at Columbia. But that is what I do primarily as a chaplain. I am engaged in religious services for various faiths. What I do is getting inmates to the chapel and getting volunteers to the chapel. I'm kind of the liaison between both of those to make sure that programming runs as smoothly as it can in the prison setting. But we are also involved, chaplains are expected to be involved in rehabilitation and transitional services, especially as it relates to faith-based type transitional services. So transitional housing that may be connected to a church or connected to some type of religious program. We're looking for those. We have a list of those. Inmates can ask for those, and we'll provide them, and we're always looking for more. So if you know of any, please feel free to send me some, and so that we can get those out. I want to talk to you a little bit about what the FDC, or Florida Department of Corrections, is currently doing as it relates to the rehabilitation of inmates. And it was a couple of years ago, it was a major win for chaplaincy. It seems like that there were members of some team that had toured a prison facility, and there was a marked difference in one of the dorms. And they had inquired about what was the difference. It was cleaner, it was brighter, the attitude of the inmates were better. And they said, oh, well, this is one of our faith and character-based dorms. It's just a program, a dorm, or half of a dorm, where inmates, they sign up, they come in, and they go through classes all day, rehabilitation type classes, anger management type classes, and they're involved in that. And so they were like, wow, this is great. We should implement this in other places. And there was a huge expansion of that. And so that was a major win for chaplaincy, because it had obviously better behaved inmates. They were more positive, their attitude was better. And naturally, we believe that a better behaved inmate inside the gate will also be better behaved outside of the gate. So there was an expansion of that. So that's one of the things that has been going on. I can't remember the numbers. It's been a couple of years ago, but I'm thinking it was something like at least doubling the amount of faith and character dorms across the state. Also, we have contracted with a Gateway, who offers betterment programs. They do substance abuse counseling, thinking for a change, victims impact, parenting from the inside, just various courses that an inmate can enroll in and take to kind of gain some skills or to confront some of his behavioral or substance abuse problems. Also, adult basic education is a big deal in the Florida Department of Corrections. It's something that is pushed. And actually, Baker CI leads, if I'm not mistaken, leads Region 2. I don't think we lead the state, but we do lead our region in GED achievement. So adult basic education is something that Florida Department of Corrections is doing. They also have a youthful offender program at Swanee Correctional Institution, and it's kind of like a boot camp thing. You know, they come in, and have been to Swanee some, actually worked there for a few months, and you can hear them, you know, kind of marching and running and doing the cadence calls and all of that. So it's kind of a boot camp, you know, real strict. But then they're also in classes all day if they need to earn their GED. That is made available to them, and it's just a strict setting in hopes to improve their behavior. And then there are loads of vocational training opportunities in the Florida Department of Corrections. There are barber training, plumbing, electrical training, masonry, carpentry. I think there's even a cosmetology training opportunity in the Department of Corrections. There's some agriculture type horticulture training, CDL training, wastewater treatment. Those are just the ones that I'm aware of. I'm sure there are others. These are opportunities that an inmate can sign up for, learn some skills, learn a trade, even receive some certification in that regard, so that they can be better prepared when they get outside to try to find gainful employment, which I think is a very important thing, and one of the reasons why I love Operation New Hope so much. They've also implemented some other things, and some of the new things I'm not privy to because I'm not on the inside. We just kind of receive them as they come down with instruction. But I am a part of a volunteer task force, and so I am aware that there is a push from Secretary Inch to triple the amount of volunteers, or triple the number of volunteers, and that is in every area. Probably the biggest place where volunteers historically have come have been the chapel from different churches and things of that nature, but now they're wanting volunteers to go everywhere. So these vocational training situations, they want volunteers to come in. Adult basic education, they're wanting volunteers to come in. And one of the major pushes is to reduce inmate idleness. At the same time, I think that an influx of volunteers, providing training, providing outside contact, things of that nature would be positive not only for inmates while they're inside, but also when they get out. Another thing that they're doing to kind of make sure the inmates maintain outside contact is they're doing a tablet loaner program. So used to inmates could purchase tablets. Now they're loaning them to all inmates so that they can keep contact with outside. And that's something I've learned at Baker as opposed to Columbia. Sometimes the longer sentence guys lose contact with their family members because they don't feel like there's any reason to maintain contact. But at Baker, the sentences are shorter, and so there's much more contact with the outside, and it seems to have an impact all the way around for the inmate. And then, of course, social capital. If they are maintaining contact outside of the gate, it's going to be easier for them to transition into society once they get out, as opposed to someone who has zero contacts because they've been cut off almost completely from society. I mean, I talked to guys at Columbia that had no idea how to operate a cell phone because they had not seen one. And so you can imagine the disadvantage there. Also, there's been a wellness initiative, and I think that would go ways to improve mental and physical well-being for the inmate. Some of these that I mentioned seem to me that they are more focused on a better behaved inmate as opposed to rehabilitation. But at the same time, I can see where they would be beneficial to the to the rehabilitation and the transition into society for the inmate. And so I'm nearly done here, but I did want to address how what I do is important for prisoners' rehabilitation as it relates to chaplaincy. And there were 3 points that came to mind. Right? Preachers always have 3 points. Well, I've got just a 3-point sermon here on how I think that what chaplaincy does is important for prisoners' rehabilitation, and the thing is identity. I think that it's important that an inmate is able to identify with a positive group. What happens is, everybody wears the same clothes, everybody has the same haircut, and they have the same kind of shoes, and so inmates are like constantly trying to come up with ways, trying to get some jewelry or wear their clothes in a different way or wear their hat turned a different way to establish some identity. And I think also one of the things that they do is they join gangs when they get in prison. Some of them for protection, but some of them just because they want to identify with the cause. And I think chaplaincy can provide a positive avenue for that. They can identify with a faith group, and I think that is a positive a positive avenue. It's a new way of living. There's something to learn, something purpose greater than themselves to live for. Instead of those negative communities that require them to run drugs and things of that nature. Also, I think that chaplaincy builds social capital. We have groups that come in. Operation New Hope is one of those groups. They come into the chapel and they are able to make contacts with folks that are able to get them jobs. Churches are another excellent avenue for that. Church of 1122, large church in Jacksonville, comes in, and they have a team that's set up for when these guys come from their prison services into their regular churches. They have a team set up to receive them, to help them. They have a thrift store to help them get some clothing. They have folks that are hiring to help them get jobs, so that they can move into becoming productive citizens. And I mean, social capital in church is a big thing. As a matter of fact, almost every job, if not every job that I've ever had, has risen immediately from contact at church. Hey, do you know anyone who's hiring? Yes, so-and-so is hiring. As a matter of fact, the reason I am a chaplain is because I in the church got me a job as a chaplain. So that's an important thing. And then I think that hope is a big thing as well. That's my last point. Faith provides a sense of purpose that transcends their present circumstances, and it motivates them to pursue that purpose. And having hope that things can get better, I think, is important. There are various faiths offer various avenues for that, but I'm a Christian, and so I just use this as an instance. The Christian purpose for an inmate tells a higher redemptive story. It acknowledges the fallenness and sinfulness of mankind, but then it provides the hope of forgiveness of sin and restoration from fallenness through the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And so now the inmate, believing the Christian faith, has a new hope and something greater than his or her past self. And that motivates them, I believe, to growth, to reflect the image of their Savior, the one who has forgiven them, by offering forgiveness to others, and so forth. And that would be over against blaming everyone else for their circumstances, which is absolutely hopeless. So I think those are a few things, and I will be quiet now. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, actually, for sharing. I think Not many of us have the insight that you have, spending your time behind the walls as you do. So thank you for sharing. I think that was very enlightening, I think, as a start to this conversation about what is taking place currently with the Florida Department of Corrections in terms of rehabilitation. I'm excited now to pass on the discussion to Professor Cronrath, who has some experience in implementing rehabilitation through the Second Chance Pell Grant. So I'm going to spotlight you, Professor, now, and I look forward to hearing what you have to add to the conversation. Thank you.
Sure. Well, thanks, Amanda, and thanks everybody. Thank Chaplain Norman. That was great. You know, it takes a special kind of person and a special kind of human being to do what the chaplain does on a daily basis. And that was really inspiring. Thank you. You know, my experience came in this. I teach political science at Florida State College at Jacksonville at our South Campus during non-COVID times. Now I've been forced to doing it live online. And sadly, technologies like Zoom and WebEx have become the way that we're teaching. And I got to tell you, it's difficult. I really miss the human interaction, but that's one of the reasons why I was excited about this, just to see different faces and be able to engage with you guys in the community. So a little bit about what my role previously was before I was a professor here at FSCJ and JAX. I was the director of grants at Florida Gateway College in Lake City. The service area, of course, there includes where Chaplain Norman's at Baker. That service area was Columbia and Baker and some of the rural counties out in central Florida. And you know, just as a little bit of an overview, Pell Grants are one of the #1 things that allow low-income folks in the United States to attend college, whether you are incarcerated, whether you're free. Right now in the United States, we offer for the lowest income earners in our society $66,345 a year to assist folks that is unpaid. You don't have to repay that back, to allow folks in order to seek higher education and to gain higher education. And while it's, you know, $6,345 a year, when you think about it, with the last 40 years, the rising and escalating costs in higher ed, that still represents a good amount of value. You know, right now at FSCJ here at Florida State College of Jacksonville, our full-time tuition for 1 year is $2,520. So, you know, does that cover the cost? I mean, do most of our students and folks still have to work full-time jobs, part-time jobs, live at home? They do. But in terms of being able to cover tuition at one of our 27 state community colleges in Florida, that's enough. Now, why does that dovetail perfectly into what, you know, you're thinking about trying to educate ex-offenders? Well, you know, the state of Florida is already paying for their room and board. They're not going anywhere. So literally, the Pell Grant program can fund an AA degree, and quite often 4-year degree programs at a state university, such as the University of North Florida or the University of West Florida, depending upon where the person would be incarcerated in the state. Now, so what basically happened with the Pell Grant program? Well, it used to be that, you know, a lot was made before this election for Vice President-elect Biden's support of the crime bill of 1994. And one of the unfortunate elements of that crime bill was that it eliminated Pell Grant funding for folks who were incarcerated. Okay, so when you're trying to talk about and some of the states were able to continue to offer grant assistance after the federal money went away, but the number of folks who were incarcerated who were receiving some sort of college class was cut in half. And as we know, looking back as a matter of public policy, that was not a good decision for a variety of reasons. One, I think most of us who are on this call would argue that that is not the wise thing to do if you're trying to prevent recidivism. Clearly, education is a major deterrent in folks who are recidivant. But also, too, is a cost-benefit analysis. The last time I checked, maybe Chaplain Norman or Amanda have more update information. It cost about $20,000, I think $21,000 a year to incarcerate somebody in Florida, versus having them not be recidivant and allow them to have access to a Pell Grant for $6,300 a year. So one of the things and one of the big challenges with this program, particularly me living in a more conservative part of the state, going to Baker County, Columbia County, you know, Suwannee County, was the whole idea that even if you don't have you know, if you have the mindset that, you know, somebody who's incarcerated just needs to serve their time, we're not there to give anybody a free education. What I tried to do to get to folks was just to look at the cost benefit analysis. Would you rather invest a little bit of money in federal Pell Grant dollars while they're in prison, or would you rather have them be recidivant and come back and spend $20,000 a year to continually incarcerate them? And over time, with this, a lot of patience and a lot of public education, you know, I and Florida Gateway College, we were able to move the needle on that. Now, fast forward, how did Florida Gateway College out in Lake City get involved? Our new president at the time when he came in was from the state of New York, where he himself, when he was a college professor, had taught behind bars. He saw the opportunity come out for the Second Chance Pell Initiative, which was basically, you know, allowing, I think at the time, I think it was 60 colleges or universities in the country to apply and say, hey, can you put together a program and can you go ahead and can you find a partner? We look down the street. You know, it's interesting, Chaplain Norman, you know, kind of our decision-making process at Florida Gateway when we reached out to the FTC was, we ended up just picking the institution that was closest to us, and that was CCA. We found a cooperation, you know, a lot of things fell into place with us, guys. We were the only test site in Florida, and we were doing something which was innovative in a conservative part of the state, politically conservative part of the state and culturally conservative. We found a warden who was receptive. We found personnel at FTC who worked in the adult education at the time, who were like, you know what, we've already got all these great programs in place, like Chaplain Norman was describing at Baker, but how can we really amp this up? And, you know, being able to offer somebody an AA while they're behind bars. Now, guys, this is 60 transferable credits that when they get out, they've already got a leg up, you know, and we have reciprocity in the state of Florida. So whether you're incarcerated at Baker, you're incarcerated at Columbia County Annex, or Columbia, you know, Annex, when you get out, those college credits are as good as my college credits, Amanda, Shannon, I mean, whomever's on the call, you know, those are college credits that are tools for them when they get out, that they can transfer anywhere. So again, the cost made sense for us. We wanted to be able to be able to reach out. We wanted to be able to test this and to see, you know, would these folks be recidivist? Probably the biggest success factors, and you guys will probably think about this for a second. We wanted to find folks who we enrolled in the program who were going to be released soon. We wanted to find folks who had scored high on what we call the TABE, or the test for adult basic education, because we wanted them to be able to excel at college classes. And now, guys, I don't know if this has continued to be the experience with Chaplain Norman. I'd be interested to find this out, but I got to be honest with you. Some of our best students that we had at Florida Gateway College were the ones who were at Columbia. And I'm not trying to sound funny about this, but what did they have time to do all day long? Study. They were highly motivated. They wanted to learn math. They gobbled up and read their textbooks, you know, frontward to backward, because it's what they had the time to do all day. There were challenges. I mean, there were some unique challenges, of course. I mean, not everybody who is in prison is going to be somebody who is, you know, we had, for example, exploitation. We had folks who were just using it as a way to get better housing accommodations. We had folks that were using it as a way to try to get to people on the outside. Because one of our biggest challenges, actually, guys, was connectivity to the internet. Okay, how do you allow somebody to get the educational materials inside while not allowing them to use the internet to have contraband or other things arranged to be brought into the prison? So those were some of the logistical challenges that we had to work with, that we were basically able, working with our IT and IT at the Florida Department of Corrections, we were able to create some firewalls and things that would keep them from gaining outside, you know, access to. But listen, the criminal mind can often, not that, you know, we're all in a good place here, the criminal mind can be a clever one. And, you know, it was very, very challenging to stay one step ahead of the guys who wanted to use this opportunity to use it in a way, a nefarious way, in order just to create advantages for themselves. But listen, overall, the program was wonderful. I was proud to be part of it. I was proud to be brought back for the first graduating class that we actually had to go through the program. Even though I was teaching here, they invited me to come back. It was great. It was wonderful to see. And, you know, in terms of just the first talking point that I saw on kind of the agenda that Amanda had asked, you know, what would be the one thing that I would say, this is something we need to talk to our elected officials about. And I'm not just talking about a Democratic official or a Republican elected official. Depending upon who you're talking to, some folks will just buy into a program like this because it feels good and it's the right thing to do. Other people are going to be more appealed to by the fact that we're saving taxpayer dollars. A little bit of an investment up front saves us a lot of money on the back end when they go back in, if they are recidivist. So at any rate, I'm thankful for the opportunity to be here. I teach poli-sci now, and I have for 4 years, but this experience was a positive one in my life. And I'm glad Amanda found me to include me today. So, and kudos to all of you, and kudos to Captain Norman for the work that you're doing every day. So thank you.
Thank you, Professor, really. I appreciate you taking the time and for sharing your expertise and experience on it. I guess my main question, and I definitely want to open it up to a group discussion at this point, but my main question is, why did the pilot not continue?
I thought Captain Norman already said that they're doing it at Baker now, or are they?
Oh, is the Pell Grant back at Baker?
No, it is not. No.
Oh, see, to my knowledge, I thought we still had a cohort going at Columbia, or did it stop?
I'm not at Columbia anymore, but I'm not sure.
We'll have to do a little digging to see if it is continuing at Columbia.
I hope it is.
Yeah. The last time I had checked into this issue, this was actually popular enough that it actually transcended the Obama administration into the Trump administration. If it did end, I know it didn't end through the Department of Education immediately, but for some reason I thought that as a matter of fact, the last time I had touched base with them, they had eliminated the AA program and were now only offering an AS, which is and they were doing it in the field of water resource management, actually training. Because what they were finding is that most of these guys, even if they were doing well on the TABE, they were actually looking not to continue with a 4-year degree, but they were looking to get job placement as soon as they were able to get out. But one of the other key things here, guys, I mean, if this program were to be resurrected for those folks who did get the AAA, is to find cooperating 4-year institutions who, this isn't just a matter of transferring credits, as most of you know, if you have an interest in the field. This is also the matter of getting personnel, say at the University of North Florida here locally, trained to work with an ex-offender population. They have special needs. They need to be nurtured in a way by an academic advisor that people who have not been offenders don't need. So finding the willingness of the 4-year college, not just to accept their credits, but being able to work and being able to make sure that they bring nurtured as they go through the program is a very, very important one. The last time I had conversations was an institution in Miami by the name of Barry University, Barry. And they were actually interested, if they could get the funding at the time, and this is a few years old information, in creating an entire pipeline from AA to master's degree. They were really, really interested in being able to track students all the way through, getting them to start more affordably with the Pell Grant at the community college level, and then being able to get them to go through Barry for their 4-year and their 6-year degrees, for their master's degrees, if they chose to go that far.
Wonderful. That's great. So definitely we've reached the point of the conversation where I would love anyone joining us to share their experience with either as a volunteer, like Chaplain Norman was talking about, in terms of the volunteer programs that the state is encouraging, and you said tripling the amount of volunteers are welcoming into the prisons to work in terms of rehabilitation, or those who have questions on how they can get involved, or any other feedback. So anyone jump on in if you have comments or questions. And if not, we can move on to the idea of, is there anything else? I liked your recommendation, Professor, to contact our representatives and encourage these opportunities, since it is such a bipartisan win. It can be argued it's a good thing for the individual who's incarcerated to have opportunities for rehabilitation, education. It's also, like you said, tax saving. We're investing on the front end rather than spending so much money on continuing to incarcerate people as they recidivate. But is there anything else that an organization like Operation Yoke, or individuals that, that are joining us today, can do to help affect and improve rehabilitation? Do either of you have any feedback to that?
I'm sorry, I was actually emailing the chaplain at Columbia to see if the pill.
I was doing the same thing to find out.
I love it.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna find out. We're getting to the bottom of this before this call is over.
Right.
I think one of the things, whether you're talking about a traditional student or a non-traditional student, everybody who is a student can often use the help of a tutor. For folks out there who may be educated, maybe they have a forte in math, maybe they're something like that. Being able to provide tutoring service and mentoring services is always good. But, quite frankly, I don't know if Captain Norman would agree with this. I mean, the student who's behind bars really kind of needs the same support system as the non-student. They need to be able to start creating a plan to acclimate, which I know is what Operation New Hope does. You know, they need to be able to start getting that foothold in the community so that when they get out within their first, what are they most likely to be recidivist, Amanda? The first 30 days or 60 days or something like that. The percentages are off the scale for recidivist behavior. So, you know, just getting folks who are willing to work with them and you know, reinforce like, hey, there's a reason you're getting your education behind bars. There's a reason you're doing that. There is a path. That in my mind would be the most important thing. And really doing whatever chaplains like Jamie suggest that they need help with. I mean, just answering the call to volunteer.
Yeah.
Amanda, I have a question.
Great, thank you, Shannon.
Sure, and this is for the chaplain. It was really interesting to hear you talk about all of the different programs that are available in Baker in particular, since that's where you are right now. How many, can you give us a sense of what percentage of the inmates at Baker participate in the programs that you offer versus those that really don't engage with what you offer at all?
I would say that it would be the minority percentage. I don't know exactly what it is, but there is so you know a lot of some of these programs, chaplaincy not so much, but the other programs, you know, they have to, in order to keep funding, they have to keep their numbers up, and so I talk to them regularly, friends with a lot of those folks, and they struggle to keep their numbers up. You know, a lot of the inmates just simply don't want the programming. They don't see the importance of it, and then I'm sure that there's a small percentage of them that don't feel like that it's quality programming. You know, the staff are, you know, treat them poorly or are not well trained.
Millie.
They're not paid well.
Hey.
And
Millie.
so forth. But it's the minority percentage, definitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And just a follow up to that, do you think that some of the reasons that you said make a lot of sense? Do you also think that enough of the inmates know about the program availability? Is sort of that kind of like promoting of what's available also an issue, or do you think everybody really knows that it's there?
Yeah, I mean, if an inmate is not aware of the programming, he's really ignoring. I mean, it would be hard not to know. Yeah, you know, I'm sure it could be missed, but it would be difficult.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, Shannon. That was a good question.
Yeah, and if I may, I just got on the Google machine, guys, the wonderful Google machine. And actually, there's a news article that in August of 2020, Florida Gateway is now offering a bachelor's degree in applied science in water resource management. So they've actually taken a step up, it looks like, Amanda.
That's awesome. So water resource management, would that make it so that individuals upon release would have a capability to do jobs in like water treatment facilities and that sort of thing?
Water treatment facilities, both in the private and public sector, you know, stormwater treatment facilities, any kind of large company that manufactures pretty much anything is going to have a need for that kind of career. Anyone who's going to be pumping out like effluents into the St. Johns River is going to have a need for that career. They're very, very specific, but here's the best part too. They're high paying. The last time I checked, I think the average salary is something like $46,000 a year is the average salary. So, you know, the biggest thing here too, when you're talking about recidivist behavior, is making sure that these men and women who are getting out of prison are making enough money in their career that it's replacing what they were doing before. Okay. It's very, very easy to say, get out, get a job, work at McDonald's. But, you know, if you're a low-level drug dealer, you're probably doing a lot better doing that than what you're doing at a non-living wage job here in Florida, right? So that was the other big challenge, is picking something that they could actually make a career out of.
That's a good point. Thank you. That's something that we work and strive to, you know, secure living wage work for the people that come through our program as well. So that is a key component. Absolutely.
Oh, it's just, it is way too easy for those guys to go back to making easy money. I hear it all the time, you know, and it just sends them right back. They violate probation, or they come right back.
Yeah, and I'm a political scientist, not an economist, but you know, one of the things that we've learned in many cultures is that when the underground economy is more profitable than the legitimate economy, that's when you generally have major societal problems. So you know, being able to actually have living wage that will discourage that. When you're talking about, if you're somebody who's going to be recidivant, and you're in your mind, you're doing that little cost benefit analysis, right? Do I want to be a recidivant? Do I want to go back to the easy money, or do I want to, do this the way that they've taught me to do it the right way? Getting a better balance between the underground economy and the legitimate economy is critically important. Critically important.
Absolutely, that's a great point. Thank you. Anyone else want to contribute or ask question, give personal experience? I invite you to.
Well, I was just wondering too, like if this, as you said, Professor, having to do everything virtually now, you're missing kind of that interaction, but also if that would help with the availability of services even more so in prisons, like as far as like cost, if the education, because you could have, a class streaming in there and have more inmates attending and things like that. I just wonder if maybe there can be something good that can come out of this. And maybe that will help with the funding that we're all lacking so much of.
So let me just say, I really want to thank you for this question, because you just rattled loose something in my brain. One of the reasons why the program slowed at Columbia or stopped for a semester or two was because of COVID. They were trying to find the technological solution to stream. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, now that this is all, and I don't know why I didn't think about this before, what really happened was they basically took the cohort that they had going through right now and they hit the pause button. So that's, I think, what they're trying to figure out is how to get that. Because again, there's technological challenges when you're still dealing with a population, and regardless of the success of the program, of offenders who are going to try to find a way to manipulate that technology for reasons which aren't the constructive reasons we want to do. There's also a cost factor too in being able to do that, which I know a lot of initially, despite the fact that the students were getting Pell Grant monies, there was a conversation between the Florida Gateway College and the FDC that if you're infusing new technology into the classroom, who's going to pick up the cost for that? At the end of the day, none of our community colleges are for profit, but we still have to have a break-even point in terms of what we're investing into the program. So I think hopefully that answers your question a little bit. But
it does. It's a shame we can't get to like sponsorship. You know how like football stadiums have sponsors, like we're TIAA, like we couldn't have like the Verizon classroom, and so everything electronic was brought by them and things like that. But maybe that's my next task.
Excellent. It's an excellent point. Like I think here in the Springfield area, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Boys and Girls Club here in Springfield has Citi as a sponsor, CITI, okay, with naming rights, and then they do that. That's a wonderful concept. Literally have it brought by a corporation that through part of their philanthropy wants to sponsor it. Of course, we don't want any money siphoned away from Operation New Hope doing it. But at any rate, it's a competitive. Listen, that it is a competitive marketplace for that kind of thing. But certainly there's enough deep pockets that you think that we could do something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and maybe, as Chaplain Norman was saying, with the loan tablets and everything, maybe there is promise like on the horizon for being able to target different educational models or modes through the loaning of tablets into the prisons. And because maybe that's a way that you can control the behavior and the access.
Hey, Chaplain, what would you say the average length of sentence is at Baker? Is it less than a year? Is it a year to two? Like how long are they usually there?
Probably on average, it's going to be a year and a half or 2 years. I think you have to be around 3 years for the most part to even come to Baker.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
I know we don't use these terms, but it's a minimum. It's more of a minimum security facility, isn't it?
Right.
Okay. All right.
Interesting.
Oh, by the way, just as a little fun fact too. My dad worked for the Federal Bureau of Prisons for 30 years, and he retired an associate warden. So it's one of those nice things as a son being able to work with your dad on an issue which was kind of common, and me being able to pick his brain over the years about things that work. And what's really interesting is that he was in charge of custody. So my dad wasn't even into the adult education stuff. He was just into the lockdown stuff. But when I was starting the program or helping to work on the program at Columbia, his insights were actually invaluable and I say this, but into the criminal mind, he was very, very, you take a guy who's like me, good natured and, I want to help everybody. And, And then, you know, you'd be able to talk to your dad and you're like, okay, while you're helping everybody here, you need to know this, this, and this, and this, and this. And that was a very interesting thing, but yeah.
It was interesting. Very great. Well, I certainly don't want to wrap it up short. So if anybody has anything else they want to add, we do have a goal of wrapping it up before 1:30. We have clients graduating today from our Ready for Work program. So we have graduation at 1:30, which we get real excited about and like to cheer them on. So I think at this point, I'll just kind of do final wrap up. I thank you to you both, Chaplain and Professor, for sharing your expertise, your experiences, your knowledge, and helping us continue this conversation in terms of how we can just make a better reform system so that we can reduce recidivism. I mean, it's a win for everyone. We have a healthier economy, we have a healthier community, we have a safer community, we have healthier families. It's just better for the state. It's better for our society. So thank you for helping us find ways to achieve that goal that we all can agree.
If there is anything that if there's anything I can do moving forward too with FSCJ, you know, I have a decent relationship with the president and our administration. If there's a way that you think that we can find a space that we can talk and we can work with Amanda, please let me know too.
Thank you. I love that idea. Oh, I appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you. Yes.
Amanda.
Yeah.
Hey. All right.
Hi, Ms. Jenkins. How are you?
I am well. I apologize. I was late. I was in another meeting. My name is Tanae Jenkins. I appreciate you inviting me to this meeting. I was actually, I tell my story all the time. 10 years ago, I went to prison. I did 2 years at Low and Levy work camp before they shut Levy down back in those days. And I came out and I came to Operation New Hope. I was there for 2 whole weeks before I got a job. So, and in these 8 years that I have been out of prison, and I literally was forced to be an entrepreneur, and that is a skill set that is not taught at all. And also, when I got out of prison, I had this mindset that I wasn't enough, that I was below. And I defrauded a financial institution for $88,000. And this year, as a matter of fact, last month, November 3rd, I received my free papers, as I call them. I got on probation. I paid off my restitution, got on probation, and I saw that my biggest thing was finding a job that could sustain my lifestyle. Before I went to prison, I was a business analyst at a bank, and I cannot get into that banking industry any longer because of my crime. Mm-hmm. It's the cost of crime. But when I was at Levy Forestry Camp, I was a GED teacher for those women in there, and to hear you all talk about education and getting them an education, that is a really big deal to someone, say, who doesn't have their GED. So when we took those GED tests and those women passed those GED tests, it was like a whole new light, a whole new life. They had a new promise, and you could see it in their eyes and in their excitement when they did pass that test. So I do believe education is a very big thing to not recidivate. So to hear you all talk about that, and the gentleman was talking about Berry College and having that pipeline from AA to master's, that's a brilliant idea. And I wish that could go into effect. And I believe that would reduce the recidivism rate. So I appreciate even that thought being brought up.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. I appreciate you sharing your story. Thank you for, I'm glad you came through Operation New Hope and have had success, and congratulations on being complete. That's wonderful. I'm sure I can't even imagine how wonderful that must feel. So thank you for sharing. It's a wonderful way to wrap up this conversation. So thank you. That's great. Couple quick reminders. We have one more in the series of this discussion on criminal justice reform, and next month on the third Friday of the month, it will be a conversation regarding reforms to reentry. So hopefully that'll be a really lively conversation. I invite all of you and anyone you know, please invite people to the conversation. I think the more the merrier in this case. We invite more information, more ideas, and we spread the ideas as far as possible. Also, Operation New Hope will be one of the nonprofits featured at the Great Community Give Back event this Sunday from 11 to 3 at the Renaissance World Resort at World Golf Village. If you guys are going to be in the area or know anyone that is, feel free to drop by. It should be an interesting event showcasing all the different nonprofits working in our great community. We're thrilled to be a part of it. So I hope to see you there or anyone that you want to send our way. And lastly, just a quick plug, Giving Tuesday is on the December 1st, which is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. It's an International Day of Philanthropy, and we invite you to support your favorite charity, be it Operation New Hope or any other, through a gift of giving or of your time or treasure. So please give and make the world a better place on Giving Tuesday, December 1st. We can all do it together. Again, I thank you, Professor and Chaplain, and thank you to everyone that joined the conversation. I hope to see you again in a month, and I hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving, and thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.